I've been in touch with one or two folk recently who have been struggling to work out what day of the week it is. I don't know if you've had that experience in lockdown as it's gone on and seemingly on and on. Most striking was somebody who on Saturday morning got in touch to say that they were having trouble getting onto the church worship for that weekend, and was mightily relieved to discover that it wasn't in fact Sunday, it was Saturday, and that if they came back 24 hours later they wouldn't have any problems. So we're having trouble just following the natural structures of life, discerning one day of the week from another, and people are talking quite a lot about how finding rhythm, finding structure to life is quite difficult. So I want to share five very simple tools for helping you to put some shape on life, either daily or weekly or more long-term, things that I've found helpful personally, and hopefully you'll find helpful as well. Firstly, a couple of daily tools. Very simple one at the start of each day. I don't know if you're finding it difficult to distinguish one day from another, just to identify three things to do each day. Three significant things that if you get them done today, it will make today worthwhile. It will sort of all work and have felt like a decent day. So just having a few minutes at the start of the day to say, okay, what are the three big things that I want to do today? What are the three things that I want to accomplish? The three jobs that I want to finish? The three phone calls that I want to make to keep in touch with people? Whatever it is. Three things each day, and that will help to give a sense of shape and purpose to each day rather than just letting them float past without really getting anywhere with them. Something to do at the end of the day is an ancient spiritual tradition from the Jesuits, the St. Ignatius, who devised a form of prayer called the examen, which was basically a way of prayerfully reviewing the day at the end of every 24-hour period, to take time just to be still, to give thanks for the day, to go through it in your mind in detail about what's happened, and to identify in what's happened when are those times when you felt closest to God or most aware of God being at work, and when are the times when you felt furthest away and most aware of God not being with you, or you not being with God in that moment. And then following that practice over a number of days and weeks, and through it becoming more and more aware, instinctively aware of where God is as we go about our daily business, becoming more aware of his presence, becoming more sensitive to the Holy Spirit. And there's a few links for how to practice the examen just below this video. If you want to click on those, they will take you to some guides that will help you to do that. So that's a couple of things for daily living, three big things and the examen. One thing that might be helpful week by week is just to set aside an hour or two of thinking time every week. There is so much changing. We're still getting used to having gone into lockdown. Now we're trying to get used to coming out of it. And there's just lots and lots of stuff to process. And it might be helpful just to sit down with a pen and a bit of paper and to doodle or scribble or journal or whatever it is, just to think about what's going on and to spend a bit of time turning it over with God or offering it to him. Or maybe during that time, to take the time to read a book that might nourish you. One that I'm reading at the moment, which is found very helpful, is by a guy called John Mark Comer, C-O-M-E-R, called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And actually lockdown has ruthlessly eliminated hurry, because it's just decimated all sorts of things that we would have been doing. And people are talking about a slower pace of life with less going on. So can I recommend that book? Or if you want to, books by John Ortberg, Richard Foster, or if you're into more hardcore stuff, Dallas Willard on the spiritual disciplines. But have an hour or two a week of thinking time or reading time just to get into deeper stuff. God intentionally creates days in a batch of 7, with 6 days of work and a 7th day of worship and reflection. You'll notice in Genesis 1, at the end of God's 6 days of creation, he looks at it and says, that's very good. The day of rest is a day when we assign value to what's been going on in the other 6 days. So it's to have a weekly pattern of standing back from what we're doing and working out what pattern it's weaving is a really, really helpful thing to do. Finally, a couple of things just to help you stand back from life as a whole and work out where it's going. There are all sorts of things going on. Some of them are under our control and under our influence, and some are not. And so you might find it helpful just to write down everything that's going on in your life at the moment, whether it's around work, family, relationships, school, health, shopping, finances, or whatever, and put them into one of two circles. You'll see on this diagram, if I get my finger in the right place, there's a circle of concern and a circle of influence. And the circle of concern covers everything that we're concerned about, all of the things that we find going through our minds. And the circle of influence, it's within the circle of concern, it covers those things we're concerned about that we can actually do something about. And this exercise helps you to distinguish one from another, to work out, well, what's in your circle of concern. You can name it, pray about it, maybe share it with somebody else. Here are the things that I'm concerned about, but I can't do anything with. And then within that, what are the things in your circle of influence? What are the things that you can review and have a look at them and decide what you're going to do, plan it in, and take some steps to address those things. And to distinguish what we can control or what we can influence and what we can't helps us to know where control in our life lies. And having control is a great antidote to stress. So if we can identify those things where we have some measure of control that we can do something about, then that will help to reduce our stress levels and help us to be a bit more decisive, to have a bit more of an effect in the things that we are working on in our life. So circle of concern and circle of influence. Final thing, which again is a great tool for standing back that I use every few months or so, is to just draw a little sketch map of your life. This is, the lighting's messed this up a bit. Just draw a picture of yourself in the middle, and then coming out of that, all the different aspects of your life that on the first sheet are drawing energy out of you. There's an occasion where Jesus has a woman touch his robe, and Jesus turns around and asks who touched him, because he felt power leaving him. And in all of our lives, there's a flow of energy. There's a flow of energy in and a flow of energy out. So do a little sketch of where all the energy is going. And it could be areas like work, family, relationships. It could be your health. It could be personal habits. And within any of those areas, there'll be different segments. With family, there'll be people that you're living with, people who are more distant, the relationships that you find more stressful, and so on. And do a little map of what those demands look like upon you and where the energy is going. And then do a similar map of where the energy is coming from. So there might be a whole load of different things. Some of them are one and the same. You might receive energy from your family as well as giving energy out to them. And do a map of both of those things. Where are you giving out and where are you gaining energy? And just to see how they fit alongside each other. I'm going to hold this at a distance so you can't see any specifics that I've done. But here's one that I did a few months ago. This is where all the energy is going in my life at that time. And then this one was where energy was coming from. You can't make that out that well. It's a much smaller diagram than the other one. And so looking at that, I could see that there was more being given out than I was getting in. And that made me think, okay, I need to do something about this. I need to identify where my sources of support and nourishment are and try to spend more time on those. And I also need to look at where all my energy is going out and see if I can do any pruning on that diagram. Other things I can delegate, other things that I can spend a bit less time on so that I'm not constantly losing energy to them. So doing that little mapping exercise. Where am I giving out? Where am I getting in? And seeing how those go alongside each other can really help. During this lockdown, when many of our normal activities have stopped, this is a great time to review what life looks like, because we might not have to re-engage with everything as lockdown unwinds, and we might have a bit more choice over how we spend our time, how we spend our energy, what our lives look like as we go forward over the next few weeks and months. So those are 5 different tools that can help us to get a grip on life, either on a daily basis, a weekly basis, or the whole canvas of what's going on. I hope that at least one of those is useful to me. Do use the links below to follow for the examine. And if there's anything else that you find really helpful, pop it in a comment underneath this link or let me know on email, and I'll try and do a video about those as well. Thank you very much for watching. May God bless you, and may God go with you.